Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, earlier this week, a group of British peers and Christian leaders travelled to Syria to meet the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and appeal for him to protect the lives of Christians in the country. The visit was criticised by MPs for strengthening President Assad's hand. Soon afterwards, footage emerged showing what appeared to be the aftermath of a chlorine gas attack in Syria's second city of Aleppo. On Wednesday, the Foreign Secretary, Boris Johnson, met Syrian opposition leaders here in London to push for a resumption of peace talks in Geneva.
It is obviously critical that the world and all the interlocutors in Geneva should be able to see that there is a future for Syria that goes beyond the Assad regime. And I think that was one of the big questions that for years, frankly, we've been unable to answer satisfactorily. What happens when Assad finally goes? And of course, there is widespread agreement across the world that he must go, including with the Russians. There's been less clarity about the post-Assad vision for Syria.
We're joined now by Caroline Cox, who was one of the group of British peers and Christian leaders who met Bashar al-Assad this week. What did you hope to achieve by meeting the Syrian dictator?
We've been heavily criticised for that, so I've got three quick answers. One is if you don't meet someone, you can't raise the criticisms, you can't raise the concerns. Secondly, we were invited by Muslim and Christian leaders. We spent 2 hours with Assad, President Assad. We spent 5 days with the local people, including dangerous places like Aleppo, listening to the local people. So it was a tiny part of the visit. But thirdly, there's a double standards in that criticism. I work in Sudan. Earlier this year, I was in the mountains. The government is bombing its people there. Nobody makes a criticism.
I understand, but my question was, what did you hope to achieve?
Well, we could raise our concerns with the president, but we really went to hear the people and to hear their points.
But I'm talking about I understand that, but I'm talking about the meeting with Assad. What did you achieve?
Well, we were able to raise our concerns, and they're serious concerns, but he had a chance to respond. We still have those concerns, but we've been seen to hear, and it's important, you can't judge from a distance. You've got to meet someone in order to hear the criticisms, in order to discuss.
Did you come away, did you believe him if he said he understood and would act on your concerns?
He says that he's perfectly prepared to have elections, internationally supervised elections. And one of the concerns that we had from the people is the Syrian people have a right to choose their own leadership. They have a right to elections. They are very worried about...
Do you believe him when he says he will have elections?
Yes, I do. I think
well,
on that...
why? He's never had them before, except ones that he's fixed and fiddled.
Well, he said international observers. But in the meantime, the Syrian people have 2 concerns. The first is that they have a right to choose their own leader with their own elections. Secondly, they're very worried about the government's policy of forced regime change.
The British government's policy?
Yes.
But these are all Assad talking points. No. I mean, you've come away from this. We've got this picture up here of you all meeting him there, all this. This is the man that drops barrel bombs on people and chemical weapons, and chlorine is now being used. And you come away in your statement there essentially as a mouthpiece for this regime. You talk about the Syrian people must choose their own leader. That it's unexceptional, but he says that for a particular reason. You even quote the Senior Doctors Council that there are 4,000 doctors in Aleppo, that the medical needs of the vast majority are impacted by the refusal of the international community to engage with the government. That's another Assad propaganda talking point. And you attack the Western media narrative, which is at the core of Assad's Western, anti-Western talking points. You have become a mouthpiece of this dictator.
No, we've become spokesmen, people who were there, heard the people, saw what happened on the day when there were criticisms of the use of chemical weapons, and no one can condone that. But the militant opposition groups also use chemical weapons. That's not reported. It was not reported that on one of the days we were there, when they were reporting Assad's use of chemical weapons, there were 4 attacks by Islamist military groups on civilians, one on a checkpoint in which many people were just burnt alive. 4 attacks, that wasn't reported. There were 4 missiles on the university in Aleppo the day we were there. That's not reported.
As you will understand, operating in Syria is very difficult for the media. But I would suggest, where there are atrocities, the media has reported atrocities on both sides. And for you to come in, many people with whom we met, i.e. Mr. Assad supporters, believe that the partisanship of many Western media narratives, that's an exact propaganda phase coming out of the Syrian regime, Western media narratives. The Western media is reporting barrel bombs and it's reporting the beheading of ISIS where it can, and with great difficulty. And many journalists have lost their lives in Syria.
I agree.
I've lost a colleague in Syria, and you come back spouting propaganda lines from a dictator.
With great respect, we risked our lives to listen to the people, to hear what the people... We met two of the ministers in opposition. We didn't just meet President Assad. We met two of the opposition ministers, and they're deeply concerned about the British government's commitment to regime change. They said it'll be another Iraq. If a moderate Muslim...
Well, there is another Iraq already.
Well, but it will be another one without
So
any
actually,
resistance.
it's worse than Iraq now.
Well, it's worse for the people, as it is now, but they want a peaceful resolution. We try to be their voices. We risked our lives to listen to their voices, and that's what we're trying to represent.
You had cover from Mr. Assad, so I shouldn't think that your life was as much at risk as the people that you're talking about, Baroness. I mean, it does seem to come quite close to the territory of useful idiots. To go and listen to concerns, we all know what the concerns are. We really didn't need to send an all-party group to do that. Did it not occur to you that this image plays to the narrative of Mr. Assad, or indeed the Russian story, which I noticed isn't prioritised in your report? It seems an extremely foolhardy mission to my mind.
Well, with great respect, obviously there is some security. Anyone can be hit by a missile, but we felt so passionately. We were responding to invitations from the Grand Mufti, responding to invitations from the Christian leaders to go. They desperately want people to go and hear their interpretation of events. We went to listen.
It's about how you go, and it's about what you bring back. And allowing a photo when you're in official garbs like that legitimises him. There's nothing wrong with lobbying people. And Tony Benn met Saddam Hussein. Sometimes you do need to go and talk to people that you find deeply distasteful. And having people who are prepared to open up a diplomatic route is always useful. However, allowing a photo call that looks like Western religious leaders support Assad is a major propaganda own goal. And secondly, to come back and talk about Assad in a way that as though he's part of the solution. There is no solution that is meaningful in Syria that involves him. He has to go either, firstly, helping us remove ISIS, and then then there's a transition period. But there is no way Syria can survive with Assad. He's got to go. And to come back and
I'll hold on, because it's... Well, I was quite tough with the Baroness by interview, and of course, both of you don't agree with us, so it's only fair that I give Caroline Cox the final word on this.
Thank you. We wanted to meet the people of Syria. We were invited by their own leaders, civilian leaders. We spent 5 days in very dangerous places with the people on the ground. We were in Aleppo when the university was bombed. We met the ordinary, inverted commas, people. We want to be their voice. What comes through is the media. As you said, it is difficult for the media to get there and meet the people. It's very dangerous. We did risk our lives, but we were prepared to do that, to be the voice of the people who invited us. Right. And I wish more people would go and be their voice. Everyone hears what Assad says. We want to hear what the people say, and the people's concern is they do not want a regime change brought by the outside world. They want to develop and vote for their own future, their freedom. That's
Caroline
their
Cox.
cri de coeur. Thank you for letting me be their voice.
Well, we're glad you made it back.
Relieved.
Thank you so much. Thank you.